The night started like any other flashy love and hip-hop gathering. But what happened next left cameras shaking and fans across the country gasping in disbelief. In a moment that no one could have scripted, Jasmine's mother stormed into a crowded Atlanta lounge and delivered a slap heard around the internet straight across Kirk Frost's face. Witnesses say the sound echoed over the music as phones whipped out. Security rushed forward, and Rasheeda froze mid-sentence. It wasn't just a random burst of anger. Behind that shocking strike was a storm of secrets, betrayal, and a hidden feud that has been brewing for months. Viewers thought they'd seen every twist possible between Kirk, Rasheeda, and Jasmine, but nothing prepared them for the chaos that unfolded when family loyalty turned to open war. Emotions ran high as Rasheeda locked eyes with Jasmine in a silent showdown. While shocked partygoers whispered that this was more than a simple argument, some swear they heard Jasmine's mom yell, "You will not disrespect my daughter again," before security dragged her back. Others claim Rasheeda hissed a warning at Jasmine under her breath, igniting a private confrontation that left the family divided. Social media exploded within minutes, with hashtags like #KirkSlapped and #MomVs RASHEEDA trending before the night was over. Was this slap a mother's fierce defense, a calculated move to expose Kirk's latest secret, or a desperate attempt to stop Rasheeda and Jasmine's hidden fight from boiling over in public? As cameras rolled and the crowd chanted for answers, the line between love, loyalty, and betrayal blurred into pure reality TV chaos. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning of a scandal that could tear the Frost empire apart. Under the glow of flashing lights and a soundtrack of pounding bass, the tension in that Atlanta lounge felt thick enough to slice through. Kirk Frost stood near the velvet rope with a forced grin, pretending to enjoy the night while eyes from every corner of the room tracked his every move. He thought he could keep up the facade, but Jasmine's mother was already making her way through the crowd, her face set with a fury that made even the security guards hesitate. Witnesses later said you could feel the energy shift as she approached, a silent storm cutting through the chatter and music. Kirk glanced up just as she reached him, his smile faltering into confusion. And before anyone could react, her hand cracked across his cheek with a sound that silenced the room. The shockwave of gasps rolled like thunder as Kirk staggered back, clutching his face while Rasheeda's eyes widened in frozen disbelief. Jasmine stood a few feet away, torn between horror and a strange flicker of vindication, her breath catching in her throat as the cameras captured every second. "You think you can play with my daughter's life?" Jasmine's mother shouted, her voice slicing through the stunned crowd. Kirk tried to respond, but his words were drowned out by a rising wave of cell phones clicking and people shouting for security. Rasheeda finally snapped out of her trance and moved forward, her hand gripping Kirk's arm as she glared at Jasmine with a look that could shatter glass. The years of quiet resentment between these women had simmered beneath public smiles, and now the mask was gone. "Don't you dare look at me like that," Jasmine shot back, her voice trembling but defiant, as if daring Rasheeda to say out loud what they had both been thinking for months. The lounge had become an arena, the crowd a roaring audience hungry for every word. Kirk finally found his voice, sputtering a shaky denial, but Jasmine's mother cut him off with a pointed finger. "You will not humiliate my family again," she declared, her eyes blazing. Security stepped in, but the damage was already done. Fans watching the live stream flooded social media, piecing together every angle of the fight. Some swore they heard Rasheeda hiss something about keeping your place, while others claimed Jasmine's mother threatened to expose a secret that would ruin Kirk for good. Through it all, Jasmine stood her ground, her eyes never leaving Rasheeda's, a silent challenge passing between them. The room buzzed with whispers about what could drive a mother to such a public confrontation. Old rumors of Kirk's infidelity resurfaced, but there was a darker undercurrent, something unspoken that left even seasoned cast members exchanging uneasy looks. Erica Mena, standing near the bar, pulled out her phone and muttered, "This is about to break the internet." As security escorted Jasmine's mother toward the exit, she twisted in their grip and shouted, "Tell them the truth, Kirk. Tell them before I do." The words hung in the air like a warning siren. Rasheeda tightened her hold on Kirk's arm, her jaw clenched, but Jasmine's sudden step forward froze her in place. "Maybe you should," Jasmine said softly, a dangerous calm in her voice. The crowd leaned in, sensing the possibility of a confession that could change everything. Kirk's face drained of color as he opened his mouth, only to snap it shut again under Rasheeda's icy glare. Fans watching the live stream erupted, demanding answers, while producers scrambled to keep the cameras rolling. The night had turned into a high-stakes showdown, each second stretching like a cliffhanger. Friends tried to intervene, but the emotional cracks were already exposed. Jasmine's mother, still struggling against security, hurled one final accusation that sent shockwaves through the lounge. "You've been lying to both of them." Gasps followed, and all eyes shot back to Kirk as Rasheeda's grip faltered for the first time. Jasmine's breath caught in her chest, her heart pounding as the meaning of those words sank in. Was there another betrayal, deeper than anyone suspected? The crowd buzzed with theories while Kirk stood frozen, trapped between two women who knew far more than he was ready to admit. Rasheeda's voice finally cut through the chaos, low and sharp enough to pierce the noise. "Not here," she warned, her tone carrying a mix of rage and desperation. But Jasmine refused to back down, stepping closer with a fire in her eyes that made even the security guards pause. "If not here," she said, "then when?" Her question hung like a blade over Kirk's head, the tension so heavy that even the music seemed to hold its breath. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every twitch of Kirk's face as he searched for an escape that wasn't there. Fans watching online typed furiously, each second of silence feeding their hunger for answers. Rasheeda tightened her grip again, pulling Kirk slightly behind her as she faced Jasmine head-on. "You think you can come for my family and win?" she hissed, the steel in her voice sending a ripple of gasps through the crowd. Jasmine didn't flinch. "Maybe I already have," she replied, her words a quiet detonation that left the room reeling. The lounge was no longer a party but a battlefield, every glance and gesture loaded with years of resentment and betrayal. Even as security tried to guide Jasmine's mother out the door, she twisted back and shouted, "Tell them, Kirk, before it's too late." The urgency in her voice sent a shiver through the crowd, a sense that something far bigger than a slap was about to come to light. Kirk looked from Rasheeda to Jasmine, his eyes darting like a man trapped between fire and ice, and for a brief second, it seemed he might finally speak. The crowd leaned forward, breathless, as the weight of his secrets pressed down on the room like a storm about to break. The room held its breath as Kirk's lips parted, a flicker of panic flashing across his face before Rasheeda yanked him back with a grip so tight it left no doubt who was in control. "Not here," she snapped again, her voice sharp enough to cut through the chaos. But Jasmine wasn't about to let the moment slip. She took a step forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor like gunshots, each sound pulling the crowd's focus tighter around the unfolding storm. "You think you can hide behind her forever?" Jasmine shot back, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. Cameras zoomed closer, hungry to catch every word, every twitch of emotion. Kirk's eyes darted between the two women, his shoulders stiff as if bracing for a blow that had yet to come. The air inside the lounge felt electric, a mix of perfume, sweat, and tension that left even the DJ frozen with his hand hovering over the controls. Jasmine's mother, still fighting against security near the entrance, shouted above the noise, "He's been lying to both of you," she cried again, the words slicing through the rising murmur of the crowd. Fans watching the live stream flooded social media with frantic comments. Was there another woman? A secret child? A hidden betrayal that made every past scandal look like child's play? Rasheeda's jaw tightened as whispers rippled through the audience like a fast-moving storm. Erica Mena leaned over to Carly Red and whispered, "This is bigger than the baby drama. I can feel it." Carly nodded without blinking, her phone still recording as her eyes flicked back to Kirk. "Tell them," Jasmine's mother demanded, twisting free of a guard's grip for a split second. "Tell them what you've done." Security struggled to hold her back, but her voice rang out, echoing against the walls. Kirk swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing like he was choking on the truth. Rasheeda turned on him, her eyes burning with a fury that made the room shrink to a single point of tension. "What is she talking about?" she hissed, barely moving her lips but with a force that vibrated through the air. Kirk shook his head, his mouth opening and closing like a man drowning. "Don't lie to me, Kirk." Rasheeda pressed, her voice dropping into a dangerous calm that carried more threat than any shout. "Not tonight. Not with cameras everywhere." Jasmine crossed her arms, a slow, cold smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Looks like your perfect marriage isn't so perfect after all," she said, each word dripping like poison. The crowd erupted in a chorus of gasps and murmurs. Someone near the bar yelled, "Spill it, Kirk." And the chant caught on, a rising wave of voices demanding the truth. Kirk flinched as the pressure mounted, his back against the velvet rope, nowhere left to run. Rasheeda stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "You told me everything," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. "You promised there were no more secrets. Was that a lie?" Her words cracked like a whip, and for a split second, Kirk looked like he might crumble under the weight of them. Jasmine's mother seized the pause, her voice carrying over the crowd like a final verdict. He's been playing both sides, she declared, her face a mask of righteous fury. And it's not just about cheating, it's about money, about loyalty, about family. The crowd gasped again, a wave of shock that rolled through the room like an aftershock. Money. Betrayal beyond romance. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed as the pieces began to shift in her mind. What money? She demanded, her voice sharp enough to make even the cameraman flinch. Jasmine's mother pointed at Kirk with a trembling finger. Ask him about the account, she said, her tone low and deadly. Ask him where the money went. Rasheeda's breath hitched as memories of late-night phone calls and unexplained withdrawals flashed across her mind. Jasmine's sly smile deepened, the quiet satisfaction of someone who knew a bomb was about to explode. Is this true? Rasheeda pressed, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying the force of a shouted accusation. Kirk looked down, his shoulders sagging under the weight of secrets too heavy to hide. The crowd erupted into a frenzy. Phones raised high as everyone tried to capture the exact moment the Frost Empire began to crumble. Erica Mena muttered under her breath. This is bigger than any reunion special, while Carly whispered, girl, this is history. Security tried to clear a path between the warring factions, but the energy in the room was too volatile. A powder keg, waiting for the smallest spark. Finally, Kirk looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and wet with panic. It's not what you think, he said, his voice cracking. The crowd hushed instantly, every ear straining to catch his explanation. Rasheeda tilted her head, her gaze a mixture of heartbreak and fury. Then tell me what it is, she demanded. Right now. Jasmine's mother surged forward again, breaking free from one of the guards. Tell her before I do, she screamed, her voice cutting like broken glass. Kirk's lips trembled as he finally forced the words out. I moved some money, he began, his eyes flicking from Rasheeda to Jasmine, then back again. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was trying to protect the family. Rasheeda's face hardened, disbelief washing over her features. Protect the family, she repeated, her voice icy. By stealing from it? Kirk shook his head violently, his hands raised as if to ward off the accusation. It's not stealing, he insisted. It's an investment, something I couldn't explain until it was safe. The crowd buzzed with confusion, the word investment sparking 1,000 questions. Jasmine stepped closer, her voice sharp with accusation. You mean the investment in my condo? She snapped, her words landing like a slap. Rasheeda's head whipped toward her, eyes wide with shock. What condo? She demanded, her voice trembling. Jasmine smirked, her confidence growing as the truth bled into the open. The one he bought in my name, she said, her tone daring anyone to deny it. Gasps rippled through the room as the revelation detonated like a bomb. Rasheeda stumbled back a step, her hand flying to her mouth as the pieces of the puzzle crashed together. Kirk, she whispered, her voice breaking. Tell me she's lying. Kirk's silence answered for him. Jasmine's mother folded her arms, a grim satisfaction settling over her face as she watched the empire crumble. You can't hide behind your lies anymore, she said, her voice a steady drumbeat of condemnation. The cameras zoomed in on Kirk's face, capturing every flicker of guilt and desperation as the crowd chanted for answers, their voices rising like a storm that refused to be silenced. The crowd's roar became a living thing, swelling and crashing like a wave as Rasheeda's eyes filled with a fury that burned hotter than the stage lights. You bought her a condo, she spat, each word laced with disbelief and venom. Kirk flinched as if the sentence itself struck him harder than Jasmine's mother's slap ever could. It's not what it sounds like, he pleaded, his voice cracking under the weight of 100 camera lenses aimed directly at his trembling face. But Rasheeda was already moving, her heels slicing across the floor as she closed the distance between them with the precision of a woman who has been pushed past every limit. Then tell me what it sounds like, she demanded, her voice shaking with a mix of rage and betrayal. Jasmine stood her ground, chin lifted in defiance, while her mother looked on with a grim satisfaction that only deepened the tension. Don't you dare try to spin this? Jasmine shot back before Kirk could answer. You made promises to both of us, and now everyone knows the truth. Her words carried across the room like a whip crack, igniting a fresh round of gasps and shouts from the packed lounge. Fans pressed closer to the velvet rope, their phones raised high to capture every second of the unraveling spectacle. Carly Red clutched Erica Mina's arm, eyes wide. Girl, this is insane, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the chance of tell the truth. Erica's phone never wavered, her lips curling into a stunned half-smile. This is love and hip-hop history, she breathed, already imagining the millions of views this footage would pull in by morning. Rasheeda stopped inches from Kirk, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper that still carried to every corner of the room. "You said it was over. You said there was nothing left between you two. And now I find out you're buying property in her name." Kirk's mouth opened and closed, words failing him as his own betrayal echoed back at him through the murmuring crowd. It was business, he finally managed. But the excuse landed with a thud. Jasmine barked out a bitter laugh. "Business? Is that what you call late-night texts and secret meetings?" Her eyes glittered with a mixture of triumph and heartbreak, each syllable twisting the knife deeper. "You didn't buy that condo for business, Kirk. You bought it to keep me quiet." The crowd erupted again, some shouting in disbelief, others cheering the confrontation like a championship fight. Rasheeda's shoulders stiffened, her breath coming in sharp bursts as the weight of Jasmine's accusation sank in. "Is that true?" she asked, her voice tight, trembling. "You paid her off to hide something from me." Before Kirk could answer, Jasmine's mother surged forward again despite the guard's grip. "Tell her about the nights you disappeared," she shouted, her words slicing through the chaos. "Tell her about the money you promised to keep the truth buried." Her accusations sent a shockwave through the lounge, fueling a frenzy of speculation that spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtags like #Kirk Condo Scandal and #Frost Family Secrets lit up Twitter within minutes. Fans dissecting every expression, every movement for clues. Kirk wiped a trembling hand across his forehead, sweat glistening under the harsh lights. "I was trying to fix things," he said, his voice breaking as desperation bled into his tone. "I made mistakes, but it's not what you think." Rasheeda shook her head, tears threatening to spill, but held back by sheer force of will. "It's exactly what I think," she shot back. "You betrayed me again." Jasmine took a deliberate step closer, her eyes locked on Rasheeda's. "Don't act surprised," she said quietly, though her words carried like a megaphone. "You knew he'd never change. You just didn't want to admit it." The crowd oohed in unison, the tension reaching a fever pitch. "Watch your mouth," Rasheeda snapped, her voice low and dangerous. "You don't get to talk to me about my marriage." Jasmine smirked, unfazed. "Maybe if you had been watching your marriage, we wouldn't be here." Security tightened their hold as the women moved within inches of each other. Rasheeda pressed, her voice dropping into a dangerous calm that carried more threat than any shout. "Not tonight. Not with cameras everywhere." Jasmine crossed her arms, a slow, cold smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Looks like your perfect marriage isn't so perfect after all," she said, each word dripping like poison. The crowd erupted in a chorus of gasps and murmurs. Someone near the bar yelled, "Spill it, Kirk." And the chant caught on, a rising wave of voices demanding the truth. Kirk flinched as the pressure mounted, his back against the velvet rope, nowhere left to run. Rasheeda stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "You told me everything," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. "You promised there were no more secrets. Was that a lie?" Her words cracked like a whip, and for a split second, Kirk looked like he might crumble under the weight of them. Jasmine's mother seized the pause, her voice carrying over the crowd like a final verdict. "He's been playing both sides," she declared, her face a mask of righteous fury. "And it's not just about cheating, it's about money, about loyalty, about family." The crowd gasped again, a wave of shock that rolled through the room like an aftershock. Money. Betrayal beyond romance. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed as the pieces began to shift in her mind. "What money?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to make even the cameraman flinch. Jasmine's mother pointed at Kirk with a trembling finger. "Ask him about the account," she said, her tone low and deadly. "Ask him where the money went." Rasheeda's breath hitched as memories of late-night phone calls and unexplained withdrawals flashed across her mind. Jasmine's sly smile deepened, the quiet satisfaction of someone who knew a bomb was about to explode. "Is this true?" Rasheeda pressed, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying the force of a shouted accusation. Kirk looked down, his shoulders sagging under the weight of secrets too heavy to hide. The crowd erupted into a frenzy. Phones raised high as everyone tried to capture the exact moment the Frost Empire began to crumble. Erica Mena muttered under her breath, "This is bigger than any reunion special," while Carly whispered, "Girl, this is history." Security tried to clear a path between the warring factions, but the energy in the room was too volatile, a powder keg waiting for the smallest spark. Finally, Kirk looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and wet with panic. "It's not what you think," he said, his voice cracking. The crowd hushed instantly, every ear straining to catch his explanation. Rasheeda tilted her head, her gaze a mixture of heartbreak and fury. "Then tell me what it is," she demanded. Right now. Jasmine's mother surged forward again, breaking free from one of the guards. Tell her before I do, she screamed, her voice cutting like broken glass. Kirk's lips trembled as he finally forced the words out. I moved some money, he began, his eyes flicking from Rasheeda to Jasmine, then back again. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was trying to protect the family. Rasheeda's face hardened, disbelief washing over her features. Protect the family, she repeated, her voice icy. By stealing from it? Kirk shook his head violently, his hands raised as if to ward off the accusation. It's not stealing, he insisted. It's an investment. Something I couldn't explain until it was safe. The crowd buzzed with confusion, the word investment sparking 1,000 questions. Jasmine stepped closer, her voice sharp with accusation. You mean the investment in my condo? She snapped, her words landing like a slap. Rasheeda's head whipped toward her, eyes wide with shock. What condo? She demanded, her voice trembling. Jasmine smirked, her confidence growing as the truth bled into the open. The one he bought in my name, she said, her tone daring anyone to deny it. Gasps rippled through the room as the revelation detonated like a bomb. Rasheeda stumbled back a step, her hand flying to her mouth as the pieces of the puzzle crashed together. Kirk, she whispered, her voice breaking. Tell me she's lying. Kirk's silence answered for him. Jasmine's mother folded her arms, a grim satisfaction settling over her face as she watched the empire crumble. You can't hide behind your lies anymore, she said, her voice a steady drumbeat of condemnation. The cameras zoomed in on Kirk's face, capturing every flicker of guilt and desperation as the crowd chanted for answers, their voices rising like a storm that refused to be silenced. The crowd's roar became a living thing, swelling and crashing like a wave as Rasheeda's eyes filled with a fury that burned hotter than the stage lights. You bought her a condo, she spat, each word laced with disbelief and venom. Kirk flinched as if the sentence itself struck him harder than Jasmine's mother's slap ever could. It's not what it sounds like, he pleaded, his voice cracking under the weight of 100 camera lenses aimed directly at his trembling face. But Rasheeda was already moving, her heels slicing across the floor as she closed the distance between them with the precision of a woman who has been pushed past every limit. Then tell me what it sounds like, she demanded, her voice shaking with a mix of rage and betrayal. Jasmine stood her ground, chin lifted in defiance, while her mother looked on with a grim satisfaction that only deepened the tension. Don't you dare try to spin this? Jasmine shot back before Kirk could answer. You made promises to both of us, and now everyone knows the truth. Her words carried across the room like a whip crack, igniting a fresh round of gasps and shouts from the packed lounge. Fans pressed closer to the velvet rope, their phones raised high to capture every second of the unraveling spectacle. Carly Red clutched Erica Mina's arm, eyes wide. Girl, this is insane, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the chants of tell the truth. Erica's phone never wavered, her lips curling into a stunned half-smile. This is love and hip-hop history, she breathed, already imagining the millions of views this footage would pull in by morning. Rasheeda stopped inches from Kirk, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper that still carried to every corner of the room. You said it was over. You said there was nothing left between you two. And now I find out you're buying property in her name. Kirk's mouth opened and closed, words failing him as his own betrayal echoed back at him through the murmuring crowd. It was business, he finally managed, but the excuse landed with a thud. Jasmine barked out a bitter laugh. Business? Is that what you call late-night texts and secret meetings? Her eyes glittered with a mixture of triumph and heartbreak, each syllable twisting the knife deeper. You didn't buy that condo for business, Kirk. You bought it to keep me quiet. The crowd erupted again, some shouting in disbelief, others cheering the confrontation like a championship fight. Rasheeda's shoulders stiffened, her breath coming in sharp bursts as the weight of Jasmine's accusation sank in. Is that true? She asked, her voice tight, trembling. You paid her off to hide something from me. Before Kirk could answer, Jasmine's mother surged forward again despite the guard's grip. Tell her about the nights you disappeared, she shouted, her words slicing through the chaos. Tell her about the money you promised to keep the truth buried. Her accusations sent a shockwave through the lounge, fueling a frenzy of speculation that spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtags like hashtag Kirk Condo Scandal and hashtag Frost Family Secrets lit up Twitter within minutes. Fans dissecting every expression, every movement for clues. Kirk wiped a trembling hand across his forehead, sweat glistening under the harsh lights. I was trying to fix things, he said, his voice breaking as desperation bled into his tone. I made mistakes, but it's not what you think. Rasheeda shook her head, tears threatening to spill, but held back by sheer force of will. "It's exactly what I think," she shot back. "You betrayed me again." Jasmine took a deliberate step closer. Her eyes locked on Rasheeda's. "Don't act surprised," she said quietly, though her words carried like a megaphone. "You knew he'd never change. You just didn't want to admit it." The crowd oohed in unison, the tension reaching a fever pitch. "Watch your mouth," Rasheeda snapped, her voice low and dangerous. "You don't get to talk to me about my marriage." Jasmine smirked, unfazed. "Maybe if you had been watching your marriage, we wouldn't be here." Security tightened their hold as the women moved within inches of each other. "Here's your show. Watch a woman burn down the lies she built her life on." The room erupted into wild cheers and chants as security struggled to maintain control. Fans outside pounded on the doors, desperate to witness the spectacle firsthand as live stream numbers soared past 1 million viewers in under an hour. Kirk stood in the center of it all, pale and trembling, his empire collapsing in real time as 3 women who once trusted him united in their fury. The smell of spilled drinks mixed with the electric buzz of betrayal, a scent that would linger in the memories of everyone present long after the cameras stopped rolling. And yet, beneath the noise, a deeper tension simmered, one final revelation, still waiting to surface. A secret that even T.I.'s dramatic entrance hadn't exposed. The tension only thickened as the studio lights seemed to burn hotter, every camera lens catching the smallest flicker of emotion on the cast's faces. Rasheeda stood near the edge of the set, one hand pressed against her forehead as if holding back a wave of frustration, while Kirk hovered a few feet behind her, torn between stepping forward to defend himself and staying quiet to avoid making things worse. Jasmine's mother, still fuming from the earlier slap that had left the audience gasping, paced back and forth like a storm refusing to settle. "You think this is over?" she snapped, her voice slicing through the low hum of whispers among crew members and stunned onlookers. Jasmine tugged at her mother's arm, whispering frantically, but the older woman shook her off with a sharp flick of her wrist. "No, Jasmine, they need to hear this. Everybody needs to hear the truth tonight." Fans online were already exploding with live reactions, their comments flooding social media feeds faster than the producers could keep up. "Did she really slap him?" one tweet screamed, while another demanded, "Someone check on Rasheeda." Even cast members from other franchises began chiming in, posting cryptic emojis and side-eye gifs, as if they knew more than they were willing to admit. The energy in the room felt like it might shatter at any second. Kirk finally found his voice, stepping toward Jasmine's mom with his palms raised. "Look, I get you're angry, but violence, don't you dare talk about violence," she cut in, her tone trembling with the weight of long-buried resentment. "You've been hurting this family for years with your lies and sneaking around. A slap is the least of what you deserve." Rasheeda's eyes darted between the two, her chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. "Everybody stop," she pleaded, her voice breaking under the strain. "This isn't helping anybody. We're all being played here. Don't you see that?" Her words only fueled the chaos. Jasmine turned on her, tears streaking her face. "Played by who, Rasheeda? By you, by him, or by the whole world that keeps cheering for this mess?" The room fell into a stunned hush as her voice cracked on the last word, the raw pain behind it slicing deeper than any physical blow. A camera operator adjusted his angle, zooming in on the faces now locked in a silent standoff. The audience could almost feel the unspoken history pressing down on them, the betrayals whispered behind closed doors, the text messages half deleted, the endless cycle of love and vengeance. Then, just when it seemed the fight might finally burn itself out, a producer stepped onto the set with a tablet in hand and a look of barely contained panic. "We need to go to a break," he announced, but Jasmine's mom shot him a glare so fierce he froze mid-sentence. "No breaks," she hissed. "Not until they admit what they've done." Her words hung heavy in the air, each syllable daring anyone to challenge her. Rasheeda turned slowly toward Kirk, her eyes wet but steady. "Is there something else you need to tell me?" she asked, her voice quiet but laced with a thread of finality. Kirk swallowed hard, the lights reflecting off the sweat on his brow. Viewers watching at home held their breath as the camera closed in on his face, waiting for the confession that could finally tear the Frost family apart once and for all. Kirk's silence stretched so long that even the buzzing of the studio equipment seemed to fade. Every second tightened the tension like a rope, ready to snap. Rasheeda's eyes stayed locked on him, a mix of anger and a heartbreaking plea that begged for one honest word. Jasmine's mother folded her arms and tilted her head, her glare cutting through the thick air. "Tell her," she said with a slow, deliberate edge, as though each word was a strike of its own. "Tell her before someone else does." Jasmine stood frozen, torn between shielding her mother from the chaos and shielding herself from the truth she feared was coming. The crowd in the live audience sat so still, it felt as if the whole building held its breath. Finally, Kirk rubbed a hand down his face and muttered, "There's nothing left to say that hasn't already been twisted." The words barely left his mouth before Rasheeda stepped forward, her voice trembling but sharp. "Nothing left to say. Kirk, do you even understand what you've put us through? The messages, the late-night calls, the whispers in every room we walk into. And now this being humiliated in front of the entire world." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she refused to look away. Jasmine's mom let out a bitter laugh. "Humiliated? She deserves the truth. Everybody deserves the truth. Don't stand there acting like you're the victim." Kirk turned toward her, his own temper finally breaking through the fragile calm. "You think you know everything. You don't know the nights I've spent trying to fix this. You don't know what it's like to have every mistake broadcast and picked apart while people like you throw stones." His voice rose with each word, but the trembling in his hands betrayed the fear hiding beneath his anger. Jasmine stepped in between them, her voice desperate. "Stop, both of you. This isn't just about who said what. This is about all of us being ripped apart while people watch like it's some kind of game." The studio lights caught the shimmer of tears on her cheeks as she turned to Rasheeda. "Do you really think I wanted this? Any of it? I never asked for a life where our families are headlines and hashtags. I never asked for people to chant our names like they own our pain." Rasheeda's face softened for a fleeting second. But then the memory of everything Kirk had done came rushing back, and the fury returned. "Maybe you didn't ask for it," she said coldly, "but you sure didn't walk away from it either." Before Jasmine could answer, a producer's voice blared through the overhead speakers, warning of another live segment beginning in seconds. The cameras pivoted in unison, the red lights blinking back on like watchful eyes. Crew members scrambled to their positions, but the cast barely moved, locked in a circle of raw emotions. Viewers at home could feel the charge in the air, a storm gathering with no sign of release. Fans flooded social feeds again, some begging Rasheeda to leave Kirk for good, others demanding that Jasmine reveal the full truth behind the texts that started it all. Memes, side-by-side screenshots, and wild theories multiplied by the minute, each more explosive than the last. Jasmine's mom stepped closer to the cameras, her voice slicing through the noise like a blade. "If nobody here wants to tell the truth, I will." The crowd gasped, the crew flinched, and Kirk's shoulders stiffened as if he knew exactly what she was about to say. Rasheeda clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, as she whispered, "Don't you dare." But the older woman only straightened her back, her eyes blazing with the kind of determination that could silence an entire room. "The world thinks they know this family," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "But they don't know the half of it. And tonight, they're going to find out." The audience erupted into a frenzy before Jasmine's mother even finished her sentence, the sound of gasps and shouted questions echoing through the set. Camera operators scrambled to capture every angle as if the next few seconds might define the entire season. Rasheeda stepped forward, her voice sharp enough to slice through the noise. "Don't you dare drag my family through more lies," she warned, her hands trembling at her sides. But Jasmine's mother didn't flinch. She turned her face toward the nearest camera and spoke with a calm that only made her words more dangerous. "This isn't about lies. This is about secrets. Kirk has been keeping secrets Rasheeda deserves to hear." Kirk's head snapped up, eyes widening as the crowd leaned closer. "Stop," he barked, his voice cracking with panic. "You don't know what you're talking about." Jasmine's mom smirked, her expression a mix of satisfaction and fury. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've seen the messages. I've heard the late-night calls. You think you can hide forever? Not tonight." The studio fell into a tense silence broken only by the frantic clicking of fans on their phones. As live tweets and updates flooded every corner of social media, viewers around the world typed in disbelief. Hashtags like #KirkExposed and #MomDropsBomb climbing to the top of trending lists within minutes. Rasheeda's voice quivered, but she stood tall. What messages? What calls? Her eyes darted between Kirk and Jasmine's mother, searching for even a flicker of truth. Kirk turned toward her, his lips parting to speak, but Jasmine suddenly stepped forward, her own voice trembling. "Mama, please don't do this. Not like this." The older woman placed a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder, but kept her eyes locked on Rasheeda. "I stayed quiet for years because I wanted to protect my child, but silence is poison, and I refuse to let Kirk poison another family." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Rasheeda's breath caught in her throat. Protect her from what? she demanded, her words cracking like a whip. Kirk rubbed his temples, the sweat glistening under the harsh lights. "This isn't the place," he muttered, almost to himself. But Jasmine's mother raised her voice, each word striking like a hammer. The place is here, where the world can finally see you for what you are. A man who plays families like a game, leaving behind broken hearts and unanswered questions." Fans watching the live broadcast filled comment sections with frantic guesses, their theories spinning out of control. Some claimed Kirk had fathered another secret child, others whispered about money hidden behind closed doors or alliances with cast members no one had suspected. Crew members exchanged worried glances, unsure whether to cut to a commercial or let the chaos unfold. But the producers, sensing ratings gold, gave no signal to stop. The cameras stayed locked in, capturing every tear, every trembling lip, every shift of weight as the truth threatened to explode. Rasheeda stepped even closer to Kirk, her voice barely above a whisper but heavy enough to silence the room. "Is it true?" she asked, her eyes shimmering with both fury and desperation. "Whatever she's about to say, did you do it?" Kirk swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing as the lights bore down on him. "Rasheeda, his words faltered, choked by the weight of everything he had avoided for years. Jasmine buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Jasmine's mother clenched her jaw, ready to unleash the revelation that threatened to rewrite every relationship in the room. The audience leaned forward as one, the studio holding its breath for the confession that could break the Frost Empire wide open. Kirk opened his mouth again, but the words still refused to come. The tension became unbearable, the kind that makes every breath feel like it might shatter the room. Rasheeda's eyes locked on his, unblinking, a storm of love and betrayal swirling behind them. "Say it," she whispered, her voice barely audible yet commanding. "Say what you've been hiding." Jasmine's mother took a deliberate step toward the center of the set, her wild looks, silently agreeing to let the scene roll, no matter how explosive it became. Rasheeda staggered back as if struck, her hand flying to her mouth. "Another woman," she breathed, her voice cracking with disbelief. Kirk stepped forward, palms raised in a desperate plea. "It's not what you think, not what we think." Jasmine's mom cut in with a bitter laugh. "You think you can twist this? I've seen the pictures. I've heard the recordings. You've been lying to everyone, including your own wife." Her words echoed across the set like gunfire. Jasmine trembled beside her mother, her eyes wide with fear and shame. "Mama, please," she whispered. "This isn't helping." But her mother pressed on, her anger unstoppable. "Helping. The only thing that helps is the truth." Fans online erupted, their comments flashing faster than the live feed could display them. Some demanded Rasheeda walk out on the spot. Others speculated wildly about the identity of the mystery woman. Memes featuring Kirk's stunned face multiplied by the second, each one more brutal than the last. Crew members shifted nervously, unsure whether to intervene or stay invisible. One camera operator zoomed in on Kirk's face, catching every twitch of guilt and panic as he searched for a defense. "Rasheeda," he pleaded, his voice trembling, "I made mistakes. I thought I could fix it before it got this far. But I swear, it's over. It's been over." Rasheeda's voice rose, raw and shaking. "You don't get to decide when it's over. You don't get to decide anything anymore." The audience erupted in cheers and shouts of support for Rasheeda, their voices mixing with the relentless flood of live comments. Jasmine turned away, tears streaking her cheeks, while her mother stood defiant, daring Kirk to deny another word. "Do you see what you've done?" Rasheeda demanded, stepping closer until she was inches from Kirk. "You humiliated me. You embarrassed our family. You broke every promise we ever made." Kirk's shoulders sagged under the weight of her words. "I'm sorry," he whispered, but the apology felt empty against the roar of the crowd. Jasmine's mother crossed her arms, her voice cutting through the chaos with finality. "Sorry doesn't erase the lies. Sorry doesn't heal the wounds you've left behind." Rasheeda turned to the cameras, her eyes glistening but fierce. "This is what betrayal looks like," she said, her voice trembling with both pain and power. "Let the world see it. Let them all see what it means to trust the wrong person." The audience erupted again, their cheers blending with the sharp sound of Jasmine's sobs and the hollow silence of Kirk's defeated stance. Fans across the globe typed furiously, their reactions pouring into every corner of social media as the Frost family saga reached its most shocking peak yet, leaving everyone wondering if this would finally be the scandal that ends it all. The room seemed to hold its breath as Kirk's hands fell limply to his sides, the weight of exposure pressing down on him like a physical force. Rasheeda's eyes never left him, each blink a silent accusation, each breath a countdown to the inevitable fallout. Jasmine's mother stepped closer, her presence magnetic, drawing every eye in the room to the epicenter of the storm. "And there's more," she said, her voice deliberate and cutting. The audience leaned in, hanging on every syllable, their anticipation so thick it felt tangible. The condo isn't just proof of betrayal, it's a pattern. A series of promises made to silence, to bribe, to manipulate, and tonight, we're letting it all out. Kirk swallowed hard, his throat dry, his usual bravado stripped away by the raw intensity of the moment. I didn't mean for it to get this far," he stammered, his words barely audible over the murmurs of the crowd. Rasheeda's jaw tightened. "Didn't mean for it to get this far? That's all you can say after years of deception." The audience groaned collectively, some shouting in support of her, others just stunned into silence. Jasmine stood beside her mother, fists clenched, her face a storm of conflicting emotions, anger, betrayal, hurt, but also a glimmer of vindication. "You thought we wouldn't find out," she snapped at Kirk, her voice trembling yet fierce. "You thought your little empire of lies would stay hidden forever." Tia, standing just a few feet away, crossed her arms and fixed Kirk with a look that could have frozen fire. "You've underestimated all of us," she said calmly, yet every word carried the weight of years of secrecy finally exposed. "We saw through the charm. We saw through the excuses. And now, the world sees too." Gasps and applause erupted in the audience, the energy hitting a fever pitch as viewers at home flooded social media with hashtags like #KirkExposed, #FrostFamilyDrama, and #SlapScene round the world. Memes, video clips, and speculation exploded, each post adding fuel to a fire that no one in the room could control. Rasheeda took a deep breath, trying to regain composure, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her fury. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" she asked, her voice low, controlled, but loaded with the kind of anger that makes time itself feel heavy. Kirk's head drooped, his eyes darting from one woman to the next, realizing that there was no escape from the truth. I made mistakes," he admitted finally, voice barely above a whisper. "But I love you all. I never meant to hurt anyone." The audience erupted again, this time in disbelief rather than support. Fans shouted, some cheering Rasheeda, others shaking their heads at Kirk's audacity to call his actions mistakes. Jasmine's mother let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head in disbelief. "Love? Is that what you call it? Manipulation, deceit, and hidden affairs. That's your love." The words struck like thunder, resonating through the room as if each syllable carried years of unresolved tension. Jasmine stepped forward, eyes blazing with fury and pain. "You want us to believe it was love, after all the lies, all the hidden nights, all the promises broken? No, you don't get to frame it that way." Her words were punctuated by the audience's murmurs of agreement, their cheers building into a roar as the room seemed to tilt on the edge of chaos. Kirk's gaze flicked nervously to Tia, then back to Rasheeda, realizing that he was surrounded by women who had been underestimated for far too long. I thought I could fix it," he said, desperation finally breaking through. "I thought if I kept some things quiet, I could make it right." Rasheeda shook her head slowly, tears brimming but her voice steady. "You don't get to decide what's right for us, Kirk. You've already made your choice. And tonight, the world is seeing exactly who you are." The live audience erupted into applause, cheers, and exclamations of shock as cameras zoomed in on every reaction. Fans at home tweeted furiously, speculating about the fallout and the next moves. Some called for Rasheeda to leave Kirk immediately, others demanded Jasmine reveal the full extent of the secret messages. While conspiracy theories about hidden recordings and undisclosed affairs ran rampant, in the middle of it all, Kirk stood pale, the weight of his exposure finally crushing the walls of pretense he had built around himself. The Frost family was fractured, the air thick with betrayal, and the night was far from over. The room's energy shifted again as Rasheeda's voice cut through the tension like a whip. "And what about the family?" she demanded, her hands trembling but her posture defiant. "Do you even care about the chaos you've caused for our kids, our friends, or anyone who trusted you?" The live audience leaned forward, rapt with attention, some shouting their agreement, others whispering in disbelief. Jasmine's mother stepped beside Rasheeda, her face a mask of fury and pride. "Every lie has a consequence, Kirk. And tonight, you're living every single one of them in front of everyone who ever mattered." Kirk's face drained of color as he took a slow step back, realizing that every corner of the room was watching, recording, judging. I didn't think anyone would find out like this," he muttered, his voice faltering under the weight of exposure. Jasmine's eyes narrowed, her fists clenching at her sides. You didn't think? That's your excuse. You didn't think about the lives you were destroying while you played your little game behind closed doors. Her voice cracked on the last word, her fury palpable. Fans watching from home erupted in support of her, their tweets and comments flooding the livestream with messages of outrage and solidarity. T.I.'s voice rose, cutting through the tension with surgical precision. And let's not forget, he didn't just hide one lie. He built an empire of them. Every apartment, every promise, every whispered secret was part of the same story. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience. Crew members shifted nervously, unsure whether to intervene or let the drama unfold. Cameras zoomed in on every expression, every twitch, every flinch. The room was electric, charged with anticipation for what would happen next. Rasheeda's hands flew up, frustration and heartbreak mingling in her gestures. Do you understand how this feels? She demanded, her voice trembling but carrying a weight that silenced even the murmurs of the crowd. To love someone, to trust them, to build a life with them and then find out that every moment, every promise, was manipulated. Kirk's shoulders sagged under the force of her words, his usual confidence completely eroded. I tried, he whispered, almost to himself. I tried to fix it. Jasmine stepped forward, her voice rising in tandem with the chaos of the room. Fix it by lying, by sneaking around, by pretending everything was fine while it was all falling apart behind closed doors. Her words struck like thunder, each syllable igniting murmurs and applause from the live audience. Jasmine's mother shook her head slowly, her gaze unwavering. This isn't about fixing anything, Kirk. This is about accountability. And you're running out of time to own up to it. The studio erupted once more as fans outside and online flooded social media with reactions, memes, side-by-side screenshots, and theories about every possible twist spread like wildfire. The cameras captured every flicker of emotion: Rasheeda's heartbreak, Jasmine's rage, T.I.'s icy composure, and Kirk's pale, desperate attempts at justification. Each moment felt heavier than the last, the tension in the room building to an almost unbearable crescendo. Then, as if sensing the climax, Jasmine's mother raised her hand, her eyes scanning the room with calculated intensity. And one more thing, she said, her voice steady but lethal. This isn't just about the lies you've told to women. It's about the lies you've told to everyone who trusted you. And tonight, every single one of them is going to see the truth. The crowd gasped, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Kirk's gaze darted nervously between the women surrounding him, realizing that his empire of deception had finally crumbled, leaving him exposed, vulnerable, and alone. The live audience erupted in applause and exclamations, some cheering Rasheeda and Jasmine, others shouting at Kirk in disbelief. Cameras rolled on, capturing every teetering step, every flinch, every tear, every word spoken in that charged, explosive room. Fans at home continued to live tweet, speculate, and react, their comments flooding the digital sphere with one collective question. What would happen next in a night that was already rewriting the history of the Frost family forever? Kirk's knees threatened to buckle under the weight of the room's scrutiny, the combined fury of Rasheeda, Jasmine, and her mother pressing down on him like a tidal wave. He opened his mouth, but only a strangled sound emerged. The cameras caught every flicker of panic, every subtle twitch of guilt, broadcasting it to thousands of viewers whose live reactions poured in like a relentless storm. Jasmine's mother stepped closer, the heels of her shoes echoing against the polished floor. You want to speak? She demanded, her voice slicing through the tension. Then speak the truth. Not excuses. Not lies. The truth. Rasheeda's voice rose in tandem, a tremor of heartbreak barely restrained by the sheer force of her anger. For years, we've stood by you, defended you, and believed in you, she said, each word sharp enough to cut. And all along, we were living a lie orchestrated by you. Do you even understand the weight of that? Kirk swallowed hard, glancing around, realizing that every friend, every crew member, every fan watching online could see the crumbling of the man he once projected. I didn't mean for it to hurt anyone, he said finally, voice low and shaking. I thought I was doing the right thing. Jasmine's mother laughed bitterly, shaking her head. Doing the right thing? You call hiding your affairs and manipulating everyone around you doing the right thing? That's the biggest lie of all. The audience gasped collectively, some shouting in support, others just stunned into silence. Jasmine stood beside her mother, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands clenched into fists. You don't get to pretend anymore, she whispered, her voice breaking. Not after everything. Not after the lies, the sneaking, the betrayal. Tia, who had been watching silently, stepped forward, her eyes like daggers aimed straight at Kirk. "And let's not forget the messages," she said, her voice calm but icy. "The texts you thought no one would see, the promises you thought no one would know about. It's all coming out now." The room erupted again, fans leaning forward, some gasping, others shouting their disbelief, and the cameras capturing every reaction in excruciating detail. Rasheeda's chest heaved as she took a step closer, her voice sharp, carrying the weight of years of pent-up frustration. "Do you understand what this feels like?" she demanded. "To trust someone with your life, only to find out that everything was a lie. Do you know what it feels like to live in constant doubt because of the person you vowed to spend your life with?" Kirk's hands shook at his sides, sweat glistening on his forehead under the bright studio lights. "I never wanted it to get this far," he stammered, but the words sounded hollow against the room's energy. Jasmine's mother's eyes narrowed. "It already has," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "And tonight, everyone is going to see exactly what kind of man you are. No more hiding, no more excuses, just the truth, raw and unfiltered." Rasheeda's hands flew to her face, trying to steady her trembling, while Jasmine's eyes never left Kirk's, burning with both hurt and a newfound strength. The audience erupted into cheers and applause, the energy in the room reaching a fever pitch as the cameras captured the moment for history. Fans at home tweeted and posted, dissecting every frame, every expression, every word, all demanding to know what would happen next in a night that had already rewritten the narrative of the Frost family forever. The tension in the room became almost unbearable, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in the stillness between words. Kirk's shoulders slumped as the realization of his exposure fully settled in. Rasheeda's eyes bore into him with a mixture of grief, anger, and disbelief that left the air heavy enough to choke on. Jasmine's mother, standing a step ahead, radiated authority, a storm ready to break. "Do you think apologies can erase what you've done?" she asked, her voice low but cutting, each word punctuated by the murmurs and gasps of the live audience. Kirk opened his mouth, but only a whisper emerged. I didn't want it to happen like this. Like this." Rasheeda's voice rose, trembling with restrained fury. "Like this? Do you even hear yourself?" She stepped closer, each footfall measured, deliberate, a physical manifestation of the emotional weight pressing down on him. Jasmine's mother crossed her arms, her gaze piercing, unwavering. "No, Kirk. Not like this. This is exactly how it should happen, truth laid bare, lies exposed, and everyone seeing exactly who you are." Kirk's eyes flicked around, desperate for an escape, but there was none. Cameras captured every twitch of his expression, every shallow breath, every flinch. The live audience leaned forward, collectively holding its breath as the storm around him intensified. Fans online flooded social media, dissecting every frame, posting rapid-fire reactions, memes, and theories about the fallout yet to come. Every second felt like a countdown to an inevitable collapse. Rasheeda's hands trembled as she fought to maintain control, her chest rising and falling in sharp bursts. "You made promises," she said, her voice sharp, slicing through the charged silence. "To me, to this family, to everyone who trusted you, and you broke them. Every single one. Do you understand that?" Kirk swallowed hard, the words catching in his throat. I tried," he whispered, but even he knew the words were empty, incapable of undoing the devastation behind them. Jasmine's mother shook her head slowly, her voice low and unwavering. "Tried isn't enough. Trying doesn't erase betrayal. Kirk, trying doesn't undo the nights we spent questioning ourselves, wondering if we were imagining the truth, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you'd come clean. And now, we all see what we've been blind to for far too long." The cameras panned across the room, capturing the reactions of everyone present: shock, disbelief, anger, and the raw, unfiltered pain of a family fractured. Fans at home watched with rapt attention, their comments, tweets, and messages flooding the live feed in real time. Some called for Rasheeda to walk away immediately, others demanded Kirk face legal or financial consequences, while a few tried to rationalize his behavior. But the overwhelming sentiment was unanimous. The Frost family drama had reached a level of intensity that few could have imagined. Rasheeda stepped even closer, her voice dropping to a controlled, deadly calm. "Do you even know the damage you've done? The hearts you've broken? The trust you've shattered?" Kirk's eyes darted between the three women, his bravado stripped away, leaving only a man confronted by the weight of his own actions. Jasmine's mother took a deliberate step forward, her presence almost suffocating in its intensity. "And the world sees it now. Every single one of them. There's no hiding, no excuses, no escape. This is your reckoning, Kirk, and it's long overdue." The audience erupted into a mix of cheers, gasps, and stunned silence. The chaos amplified by the live feed broadcasting every raw emotion to viewers across the globe. Cameras caught Rasheeda's trembling hands, Jasmine's tear-streaked face, and Kirk's defeated posture, painting a portrait of a family at the breaking point. Fans online speculated furiously, hashtags trending faster than the producers could track, all clamoring for the next explosive revelation in a night already defined by betrayal, exposure, and a drama that seemed impossible to contain. The room seemed to pulse with tension as Kirk finally sank into a chair, his face pale, hands gripping the armrests as if trying to anchor himself against the storm of consequences that surrounded him. Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother stood tall, unyielding, their eyes locked on him like sentinels demanding justice. The cameras captured the silence that followed, heavy and electric. Every viewer at home waiting for the next word, the next move, the next moment that could shatter or redefine the Frost family forever. The tension in the studio reached a point where it almost felt physical. A living, breathing force, pressing down on everyone present. Kirk sat slumped in the chair, his usual composure gone. Stripped away by the unrelenting scrutiny of the women surrounding him and the thousands of viewers watching live. Rasheeda's eyes were sharp, unyielding, burning with a mixture of grief, anger, and disappointment that made the room feel smaller, heavier. Jasmine's mother remained steadfast, her arms crossed, her posture commanding, like a general ready to lead an army through the battlefield of truth. You think hiding behind your charm, your excuses, or your empty apologies will save you? She asked, her voice steady but cutting. Tonight, everyone sees who you really are. Kirk opened his mouth to speak, but only a strangled half-hearted I didn't, escaped before Rasheeda cut him off. You didn't what? She demanded, leaning closer so that her anger and pain could be felt in every word. You didn't think we'd find out? You didn't think your lies would unravel? Or you didn't think you'd have to face the consequences of destroying the people who loved you most? Her voice cracked, trembling with the weight of years of trust betrayed. Yet it retained a piercing sharpness that made it impossible to ignore. Jasmine's mother stepped forward, heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Every lie, every deception, every hidden message and sneaky encounter you thought it would remain hidden. But nothing stays buried forever, Kirk. Not in this house, not in this family, and not in the eyes of the world watching live right now. Her words hit like a hammer, each one resonating with the magnitude of the betrayal that had already started to ripple through the audience. The crowd in the studio gasped collectively, some whispering in disbelief, others leaning forward as if trying to absorb every ounce of drama directly. Kirk's hands shook at his sides, sweat glistening under the blinding lights. His gaze darted frantically from Rasheeda to Jasmine to her mother, searching for some angle of escape, some glimmer of understanding, any opening he could exploit, but there was none. Every eye in the room was locked on him, every camera lens focused, every heartbeat of the live audience synchronized to the rhythm of his crumbling facade. I tried to fix it, he said at last, his voice barely audible over the murmurs. A feeble attempt to reclaim some shred of dignity. Tia, who had been quietly observing from the edge of the room, stepped forward, her eyes, usually calm and composed, now blazed with a controlled fury. Fix it, she echoed, her voice like ice wrapped around steel. You don't get to fix anything anymore. You've built a pattern of deceit so intricate it's hard to believe it wasn't planned from the start. And you've dragged this entire family, this audience, and every single person who trusted you through your personal nightmare. Jasmine's hands flew to her face as tears streamed down. But her words cut sharply, crystal clear despite the trembling in her voice. Do you even realize what you've done? The lies, the sneakiness, the broken promises. The entire charade. You think this ends with an apology? You think saying I love you now changes anything? Her voice rose over the murmurs, over the gasps, reaching every corner of the live studio and every home watching the broadcast. Fans on social media exploded with reactions, some in tears themselves, some furious on behalf of Rasheeda and Jasmine, others attempting to dissect every detail to predict what would happen next. Rasheeda took a deep breath, visibly struggling to maintain her composure. Do you know what it feels like to love someone completely? To trust someone with every fiber of your being, only to find out that everything you believed was a lie? Her hands shook slightly, but the strength in her posture was undeniable. Do you know what it feels like to be humiliated, to be betrayed, to have your entire world turned upside down by the person you vowed to spend your life with? Kirk's voice faltered. I never meant for it to be like this, he murmured, but even he knew that his words were hollow, empty of any real power to undo the damage. Jasmine's mother shook her head slowly, her expression a mix of disbelief and righteous anger. Not like this, Kirk. Exactly like this. With the world watching, with every lie laid bare, with everyone you've hurt seeing the truth for themselves. This is exactly how it should be. The cameras pivoted, capturing every flinch, every tear, every bead of sweat on Kirk's forehead. The live audience erupted in whispers, gasps, and murmurs of support for Rasheeda and Jasmine, their energy feeding the storm in the studio. Social media exploded as well, hashtags like hashtag Kirk exposed, hashtag Frost family drama, and hashtag SLAPS round the world trending within minutes. Memes proliferated, clips circulated, and fan theories about hidden secrets and further betrayals spread like wildfire. Rasheeda's hands trembled as she finally stepped forward, closing the last few feet between her and Kirk. "Do you understand the depth of the damage you've caused?" she asked, her voice steady, though laced with a trembling edge. "Every lie, every betrayal, every secret it's all unraveling now. And it's because you were too selfish to consider the consequences for anyone but yourself." Kirk's head dropped, his shoulders slumping in defeat. I thought I could make it right," he admitted, voice barely audible. "I thought if I kept some things hidden, I could fix everything." Jasmine's mother laughed bitterly, the sound echoing in the studio like a jagged knife. "Fix it by lying, by deceiving, by keeping the people who trusted you blind to the truth. That's not fixing anything, it's prolonging the pain until it's unbearable. And tonight, Kirk, it's unbearable." Jasmine stepped closer to her mother, her own tears falling freely, but her voice was fierce, unwavering. "You want to know the truth, Kirk? It's not about whether you tried or didn't try. It's about accountability. It's about facing what you've done and letting the world see the reality of your actions. And the world is watching." The audience erupted again, their energy feeding into the electric tension of the studio. The cameras captured the raw, unfiltered reactions of every person present. Rasheeda's heartbreak, Jasmine's anger, the cold authority of her mother, and Kirk's pale, defeated expression. Fans at home tweeted frantically, dissecting each word, each expression, each micro-reaction. Some speculated on the identity of other potential secret players. Others debated the legal and personal consequences, while a large portion just watched in stunned fascination, unable to turn away. Rasheeda's voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried across the studio with deadly clarity. "Do you even know what it feels like to see the people you love manipulated, humiliated, and used? Do you even feel a fraction of the guilt you've inflicted?" Kirk's lips quivered, and for the first time, his usual confidence was gone, replaced by raw vulnerability. I didn't want this," he said again, voice breaking. But it was clear that his words were too late to undo the devastation he had caused. Jasmine's mother shook her head, her eyes blazing with the unrelenting fire of a woman who had seen enough. "It's not about wanting, Kirk. It's about responsibility. And you've been irresponsible every step of the way. No more hiding. No more lies. The truth is out, and there's no putting it back in the bottle." The studio erupted in applause, cheers, and murmurs of astonishment. Cameras captured every flinch, every blink, every tear, every quiver in the voices of those present. Fans online were relentless, their reactions pouring in from all corners of the globe. The Frost family saga, already explosive, had reached a level of intensity few could have imagined. Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother took a step closer to Kirk, standing shoulder to shoulder, an unyielding wall of truth confronting a man whose web of lies had finally collapsed. The energy in the studio was electric, a storm of emotions so intense it felt like the walls themselves might shake. Every viewer at home was riveted, every comment and tweet amplifying the chaos, feeding into a narrative that had captivated the world. And yet, amid the chaos, Rasheeda's voice remained clear, unwavering, a beacon of strength amidst the storm. "This is just the beginning, Kirk, just the beginning of what you'll face. And we're all watching. The world is watching, and there's no escaping the truth anymore." The room seemed to pulse with her words, the cameras capturing the tension, the anger, the heartbreak, and the undeniable reality of a family unraveling in front of millions. Fans at home leaned closer to their screens, hearts racing, eyes wide, as they waited for what would come next, knowing that the Frost family drama was far from over and that the consequences of this night would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. The intensity only grew as Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother continued their unrelenting confrontation. Every text, every lie, every hidden betrayal, it's all unraveling, Rasheeda said, her voice a mixture of fury and grief. "And you, Kirk, are finally going to face the consequences. Not just with us, not just with the audience, but with yourself." Because living with the weight of this will be far heavier than any slap or shout could ever be. Kirk's hands trembled as he clasped them together, attempting to ground himself in the maelstrom of confrontation. I don't know how to make it right, he admitted, his voice raw, exposed, finally stripped of all pretense. Jasmine's mother's eyes bore into him with unyielding fire. You don't get to make it right anymore, Kirk. That ship has sailed. All you can do now is face it, and live with the reality of what you've done. The cameras captured every flinch, every tear, every subtle movement, broadcasting the emotional storm in real time. Fans at home typed feverishly, speculating, empathizing, judging, and watching as the Frost family's private nightmare unfolded on a global stage. The studio was electric. Every breath, every word, every glance loaded with intensity, anticipation, and the undeniable power of truth finally being revealed. The night stretched on, the confrontation continuing with relentless intensity. Kirk's usual defenses crumbled as the women's voices, filled with a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and righteous fury, continued to expose every layer of his deceit. The audience in the studio, and fans across the globe, were captivated. Unable to look away as a family's deepest secrets were laid bare, the room remained suspended in a tense, almost unbearable silence for a moment, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Every eye in the studio was fixed on Kirk, whose usual smirk and confident demeanor had been stripped away, leaving only a man exposed and vulnerable. Rasheeda's gaze was unrelenting, her chest rising and falling with sharp breaths, her hands trembling slightly, yet her posture resolute. Jasmine's mother remained an imposing presence, standing firm with arms crossed, her eyes blazing like twin beacons of judgment. Do you even understand the weight of your actions? She asked, her voice low but carrying through the studio with piercing clarity. Every deception, every hidden text, every secret meeting, you've left a trail of heartbreak and betrayal. And now everyone is watching. There is no hiding. Kirk's lips parted, but only a faint stammer escaped. I tried. Rasheeda's laugh, bitter and cold, cut through the tension, silencing him instantly. Tried, she echoed, her voice rising, trembling with both fury and anguish. You don't get to try after all the lies you've spun. After all the nights you've broken our trust. After everything you've hidden from the people who loved you the most. Jasmine's mother nodded slowly, her expression one of righteous fury. Every word, every whisper, every secret has been a thread in a web of deceit you built around yourself. And tonight, Kirk, that web is unraveling in front of the world. The audience in the studio reacted instantly, gasps, murmurs, and exclamations of shock filling the room. Cameras moved to capture every subtle movement, every flinch, every trembling of Kirk's hands and the tightening of his shoulders. Fans watching live at home flooded social media with hashtags like #KirkExposed, #FrostFamilyDrama, and #TruthUncovered. Their reactions creating a digital storm that mirrored the tension inside the studio. Memes, speculations, and reactions erupted like wildfire, the narrative spreading faster than the producers could track. Rasheeda's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she took a measured step closer to Kirk, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried across the entire room. Do you even realize what you've done to us? To this family? To me? Kirk's lips quivered as he tried to respond, but no words came. The gravity of her question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, leaving him momentarily paralyzed. Jasmine stepped forward, joining her mother, her own tears streaking down her face, but her voice sharp and unwavering. You want to call it mistakes? That's not mistakes, Kirk. That's a lifetime of lies. And we're finally seeing it for what it is. Tia, who had remained silent until now, stepped into the fray. Her usually composed demeanor was replaced with icy determination. Let's not pretend this is just about a single lie or a single misstep, she said, her voice cutting through the charged atmosphere. This is about a pattern of manipulation, betrayal, and hidden agendas. Every promise you made, every reassurance you gave, has been tainted. And now, we're watching it all collapse. The audience reacted with gasps and murmurs, the energy in the room escalating to a fever pitch. Cameras captured the reactions of everyone present, the tension etched into every line of Rasheeda's face, the fire in Jasmine's eyes, the unwavering authority of her mother, and Kirk's pale, trembling form as the enormity of exposure settled fully upon him. Social media exploded as fans dissected every frame, every expression, every subtle movement. Speculations about hidden recordings, undisclosed messages, and even more secret affairs ran rampant. Every second brought a new layer of tension, a new twist, a new shock for the captivated audience. Rasheeda's voice, both trembling and fierce, filled the studio again. Do you even understand the consequences of your actions? She demanded. The trust you've destroyed, the hearts you've broken, the nights we've spent wondering if we were imagining the truth, it's all because of you. And now, everyone knows, everyone sees. There's no more hiding. Kirk. The facade is gone. Kirk's shoulders sagged under the weight of her words. I never wanted it to be like this, he murmured, a faint quiver in his voice betraying the panic he felt. Jasmine's mother's eyes narrowed, her jaw tight with frustration and controlled rage. Not like this, Kirk. Exactly like this. With the world watching, with your lies laid bare, with the people you hurt, seeing it all unfold in real time. This is exactly how it should happen. The cameras pivoted, capturing every micro-expression, the flinch of guilt, the twitch of shame, the bead of sweat glistening on his temple. Fans at home posted live reactions, flooding the comments section with speculation, outrage, and incredulity. The hashtags trended faster than anyone could keep up with viewers dissecting each gesture, each pause, each word, theorizing endlessly about what might happen next. Rasheeda stepped even closer, her eyes locked on Kirk's, her voice lowering but gaining a cutting edge that made the air in the room almost vibrate. Do you feel anything at all? The lives you've affected, the trust you've shattered, the love you've manipulated, do you even feel remorse? Or are you just counting the moments until you can talk your way out again? Kirk's hands trembled as he clasped them together, trying to steady himself in the whirlwind of confrontation. I don't know how to make it right, he admitted, voice raw and broken. Jasmine's mother's expression hardened further. You don't get to make it right anymore, Kirk. That chapter is closed. All you can do now is face it and live with the consequences. The audience's energy surged again, a mix of astonishment, support, and disbelief. Their collective reactions amplifying the intensity of the confrontation. Cameras caught Rasheeda's shaking hands, Jasmine's tear-streaked determination, and Kirk's pale, defeated posture, broadcasting a vivid image of a family on the brink of collapse. Fans online were relentless, their live tweets, comments, and videos creating a digital echo chamber that magnified every word, every glance, every micro-expression in the room. Rasheeda's voice remained unwavering, cutting through the chaos with precision. This is just the beginning, Kirk. Just the beginning of what you will face. And we're all watching. The world is watching. And there's no escaping the truth anymore. The room seemed to pulse with tension, each camera angle capturing the raw, unfiltered drama. Every second was electric, every word a catalyst for further speculation and reaction. Fans at home leaned closer to their screens, hearts racing, eyes wide, as the Frost family's deepest secrets were unveiled on a global stage. The confrontation continued relentlessly, Kirk's defenses shattered, the women's resolve unyielding, and the audience caught in a whirlwind of emotion and suspense. Rasheeda's voice softened slightly, though her words remained sharp. Do you even realize the depth of betrayal here? The nights we spent worrying, wondering, doubting ourselves because of your lies. The trust we gave you, the love we poured into this family, you've shattered it all. And tonight, the world sees it, Kirk. Every single person watching sees it. Kirk's shoulders slumped further, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't intend for this, he admitted. Jasmine's mother's eyes bore into him like steel. Intentions don't matter anymore. Actions do. And your actions have consequences, Kirk. Hard, unforgiving, undeniable consequences. The truth is out, and there's no putting it back in the bottle. The camera swept across the room, capturing the crescendo of emotions, the heartbreak, the fury, the despair, and the tension that hung thick in the air. Fans online reacted instantaneously, their collective fascination with the unfolding drama pushing hashtags, clips, and commentary into viral status. Every flinch, every tear, every trembling word added fuel to a fire that was now consuming both the studio and the digital sphere. Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother stepped in unison, closing the final space between them and Kirk. Their presence was imposing, a wall of truth and confrontation that left him with nowhere to hide. The studio pulsed with energy, charged by the raw display of emotions, the live audience's reactions, and the global viewers' real-time engagement. The Frost family saga had reached a point of no return, a night of revelations that would reverberate for years to come. And yet, amidst the chaos, Rasheeda's voice remained steady, commanding, undeniable. The consequences of your actions will follow you, Kirk, she said. Not just tonight, not just in this studio, but in every moment you try to continue your life as if nothing happened. The truth has been revealed, and you cannot escape it. The studio seemed to vibrate with the intensity of her words, every camera angle capturing the emotional storm. Fans at home leaned in, captivated, their anticipation for what would unfold next almost unbearable. Kirk's hands shook, his face pale, as he finally realized that the empire of lies he had built around himself had crumbled completely. Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother stood as unyielding pillars of truth, and the world was watching every moment, every emotion, every word in what was already becoming a historic night of scandal, betrayal, and confrontation. The energy in the room was electric as Rasheeda's voice cut through the silence, steady and powerful. "Tonight, the world will see the real you, Kirk," she said. "No excuses, no manipulations, no more lies. The truth has been laid bare, and now you must face it. Every word, every secret, every betrayal, you will live with it, and so will we." Kirk's eyes dropped to the floor, his hands clasped tightly, the enormity of the moment crushing him from every side. The live audience erupted into applause, gasps, and shouts, their reactions mirrored instantly by fans online who typed, tweeted, and posted reactions at lightning speed. Every second was captured, every moment analyzed, every reaction magnified in a storm of emotional intensity. The confrontation stretched on, each word, each glance, each flinch adding layers of tension and drama that no one in the room could ignore. Kirk's usual defenses had evaporated entirely, leaving him exposed and vulnerable to the unrelenting force of truth embodied by Rasheeda and Jasmine's mother. The live audience's energy fed the fire, their cheers, gasps, and murmurs amplifying the emotional stakes, while fans at home speculated endlessly, crafting theories, memes, and reactions that spread across social media like wildfire. And so the night continued, each moment a testament to the explosive power of truth, betrayal, and the unyielding strength of those who refused to be silenced. The Frost family's private nightmare had, and just like that, the storm of drama has left no one untouched. Rasheeda, Jasmine, and her mother have shown the world the weight of truth, the power of confrontation, and the consequences of deceit, while Kirk sits exposed, facing the reality of his actions. Fans are left questioning what will happen next. Will there be reconciliation, more shocking revelations, or a total breakdown of the family as we know it? This is the kind of raw, unfiltered reality that reminds us just how fragile trust can be, and how quickly secrets can explode into chaos. Now it's your turn. What do you think will happen to Kirk? Will Rasheeda forgive him? Or is this the end of the Frost Empire as we know it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know your reactions. And don't forget to hit that like button if you were shocked by tonight's revelations. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of this family's intense journey. Share this video with friends who love reality TV drama as much as you do, and be part of the conversation that's taking the world by storm. The Frost saga is far from over, and your voice matters, so join in, speak up, and stay tuned for every shocking twist that's still to come.